What do these two cars have in common, other than the name GTO? Very little, but both played a big part in the birth of the muscle car. Gran Turismo Omologato. Three beautiful Italian words that changed an entire industry. For years, the name Gran Turismo Omologato was reserved for the fastest, most exotic thoroughbred racing cars. And probably the most famous Gran Turismo Omologato bore this insignia. This is Ferrari's version of the Gran Turismo Omologato. In September 1964, it was the standard by which all the other great performance cars of the world were judged. It was a magnificent automobile, no doubt about it. Nothing in the automotive world dared compare itself to this car. Nothing, that is, but a plain little Pontiac Tempest. Gran Turismo Omologato, or GTO for short. This is the 1964 Pontiac GTO. It is, by all accounts, the car that ushered in the era of the muscle car in America. That incredible time when Detroit produced the most outrageous cars to ever hit the street. Today, the GTO is one of the most collectible of all American cars. Restored 64 GTOs sell for 10 times their original sticker price. And thousands of enthusiasts have created an entire industry out of their love and desire to at last own their own little GTO. Pontiac's sales brochure on the 64 GTO called it a device for shrinking time and distance. For 1964, Pontiac had taken their sensible, economical Tempest Compact, given it a gorgeous facelift, and offered it up with their 389 cubic inch power plant in an option package they dared to call GTO. The 64 design was completely new, from the grille to the gas cap. The Tempest, the Chevy Chevelle, the Olds Cutlass, and the Buick Grand Sport were the new wave of intermediate cars from General Motors, and they were turning young people on.
What does he have that she doesn't?
Unlike the rest of the cute and sporty new breed, though, the GTO was born to be bad.
And a lot of my friends had 390 Fords, 383 Plymouths, but they were all big cars. And I was looking to buy one of those, maybe a 426 Street Wedge, something like that, in 1964. Then I saw the first ad for the Pontiac GTO. I believe it was the ad that said, "I wouldn't stand in the middle of the road if I were you. There's a Pontiac GTO coming." I just liked the idea of the mid-size car with the large engine, which was actually the first muscle car.
Back in the 50s, the fastest cars were the big cars, the ones you saw on the track every Sunday.
The race is on.
Pontiac and all the other Detroit automakers had discovered that the cars that won on Sunday sold on Monday.
But half a lap behind, coming from 46th starting position, Fireball Roberts in number 3 Pontiac.
Pontiac's factory-supported teams won more NASCAR races than anyone else in the early 60s, including both the Daytona 500 and the Firecracker 250 in 1962.
Bill Abraham from Akron, Ohio, wins the A-Stock Automatic Crown in a 62 Pontiac.
Pontiac was no stranger at the nation's drag strips either. Working through their network of performance dealerships around the country, Pontiac's engineering department was funneling special parts and information directly to what was in effect a factory drag team. By the end of 1962, all these racing activities had vaulted Pontiac from last place in sales among General Motors divisions to number 2 behind giant Chevrolet. But in January of 1963, General Motors announced a corporate ban on all racing activities. No more factory support for any kind of racing, either direct or through the dealers.
Two Pontiacs duel in the B Factory experimental class, with Jim Wangers, the number 926, winning it.
Jim Wangers was one of those win-on-Sunday Pontiac racers. On Monday, though, Jim was advertising executive for Pontiac Motor Division, and the pullout from racing hit him doubly hard.
With the advent of this new policy from the corporation, here was Pontiac suddenly without a stage on which to put their cars. They were suddenly deprived of this organized racing activity, from which a very good backup for some aggressive advertising built around the wide track image was coming.
How do you continue to be the #1 performance car in the country when you can't go racing? Stay with us as the American muscle car continues.
The new 1963 Pontiac.
All through 1963, Pontiac had two problems to deal with. One, GM's prohibition on factory support for racing, in effect, gave away their performance image to Ford and Chrysler. Two, their little compact car, the Tempest, was fast becoming a liability rather than an asset.
The car that had bowed in 1961 as a real engineering marvel had deteriorated significantly to the point where it was a real troubled car. In 1964, when the new Tempest/Le Mans car came into the marketplace, it was felt that what we needed was not just another good car. What we needed was kind of what we called in the industry an oh my God.
At the time, the head of Pontiac engineering was a pretty sharp young fellow named John DeLorean.
Now, John DeLorean, who was then at that time the chief engineer of the division, had it a habit of holding what-if sessions on Saturday mornings.
That what-if created this car, the GTO. Putting the 389 in the Tempest created the world's first muscle car, and it was an instant hit with everyone. Well, almost everyone. As it happens, the GTO almost never made it into Pontiac's lineup. GM's corporate rule was engine sizes were limited to 1 cubic inch per 10 pounds of vehicle weight. Well, here's this Tempest weighing in at about 3,400 pounds wet. You see the problem.
Well, you didn't have to be a brain surgeon to figure out that a car that weighed about 3,400 or 3,500 pounds couldn't have anything bigger than about a 350 cubic inch V8 engine. But if the car were marketed as a Le Mans with the 326 cubic inch V8 as standard equipment, but with the optional GTO package, which carried such things as a special applique for the instrument panel and a couple of hood scoops, however not functional, a couple more of those kinds of things, and oh yes, incidentally, a 389 cubic inch engine. In effect, the muscle car era was upon us.
Slick move, huh? And the best part is, it worked. The GTO was in the showrooms. Now all Pontiac had to do was persuade the world that this car was really something special.
Pontiac is proud to announce that the editors...
Jim Wangers and the marketing people had been having a lot of fun promoting Pontiacs as win-on-Sunday race cars.
The award reads...
But the job of selling the GTO to the young people of America is one of the greatest success stories in American marketing.
See and price those wide-track Tigers by Pontiac.
Even those of us that knew quite a bit about Pontiacs really weren't told about this offering. And kind of like through the rumor mill, hey, have you heard about the GTO? The GTO, what's that? Well, it's got 421 HO heads, it's a 389, it's got tri-power, yeah, but it's in a body that weighs about 3,300 pounds. Oh yeah? How much is it? A fortune? No, it really isn't any more than just a couple $100 really more than a loaded Le Mans. Well, let's go see one.
The GTO looked like a wide-track Tiger. There were bucket seats, a console, Hurst floor shifter, hood scoops, and redline tires. Plus, you could get all the luxury options, like air conditioning, vinyl upholstery, and a push-button radio, AM of course. Its base sticker price of $2,667 was within reach of a high school or college-age buyer. Here's the kicker. The GTO option to the 64 Le Mans would only set you back another $295.90. All of a sudden, all the other cars at the drive-in were last year's model.
after one of my friends had one and I took it around the block in an aggressive road test, I said, I'm going to have one of these, and I ordered one about 2 days later. Before I even took it home, I snuck down and put Doug's headers on it, had it completely dyno tuned, got street slicks on it, and by the time it came home, it was pulling 280 horsepower to the rear wheels.
If the GTO sent a few shockwaves through the crowd at the local drive-in, what it did to the street racers was a life-changing experience.
Well, Woodward Avenue was kind of the place where everybody went. It ran right down the middle of Detroit, so you had the people from the west side, people from the east side, and people coming from all over to cruise Woodward Avenue and duke it out a little bit.
There was a fella down the street that had just paid big bucks for a Corvette. Well, I had my GTO and I knew what I could do, and I was looking for him. It took me about 2 months to pin him. Then one night about 11 o'clock, I saw him all alone up there at a stoplight at Huntington Boulevard. He took one look at me, I took one look at him, and we knew we were going to race. And off we went down the road, fishtailing, probably heard those cars for 6 blocks around. And when I got by him in third gear, I knew I was going to beat him.
The GTO's promise was incredible performance at a price almost anyone could afford. The key to that promise was the 389 engine. With a cylinder bore of just slightly over 4 inches and a stroke of 3.75 inches, the 389 was already well known to racers, engine builders, and street rodders all over America. This was the engine in the 421 cubic inch Super Duty version, which had owned the NASCAR circuit. At the Bonneville Salt Flats, Mickey Thompson was clocked at over 406 miles per hour using 4 of these engines in his Challenger 1 world speed record car.
Car flashes through the timing lights. They are recording the fastest time that man has ever crossed the surface of this earth. Mickey Thompson had gone 400...
The 389 going into the GTO was factory rated at 325 horsepower with a single Carter AFB 4-barrel carburetor, or 348 horses with 3 2-barrels. But its real claim to fame was its whopping 428 foot-pounds of torque at a relatively low 4,200 RPM. Equipped with 4-bolt main bearings, the special high-lift camshaft, heavy-duty valve springs, and a few other little doodads courtesy of the boys in Pontiac's engineering department, the 389 was already on its way to becoming a street legend. This was never a very high-revving engine, but from stoplight to stoplight, it was Jack the Bear.
Most of these races were over in a block or two. I mean, very rarely would you get a street where you could rip 100 miles an hour. You'd get on it for maybe a block or two, and you know, if you get the bag on the guy a block, you were the big cheese.
This engine in a lightweight body, the letters GTO gained a new meaning in young America. In Italian, it still meant Gran Turismo Omologato, but in English it spelled, "Buddy, I'm gonna blow your doors off." When GM pulled out of organized racing, it just intensified their presence at the local drag strips across the country. And winning at the drags was key to building the image of the GTO in the hearts and minds of young America.
The year before, I was racing a 1962 Grand Prix at a fairly high level in stock. We were right on the record with that thing in 1380s at about 99 miles an hour. The first time out with this GTO at Fontana Raceway, never having driven it before, driving it out to the track, I went 1385 and 105.38, which was a staggering performance for something you could buy off the showroom floor.
The GTO earned its reputation on the drag strip and on the street, but its reputation was helped along considerably by some of the most innovative image building ever created for an automobile.
I remember an ad that the Uniroyal people did when they showed the tiger paw, and they said, you know, where else would you expect to see tiger paws but on a tiger? One of the things we used to laugh about is that we wanted to burn rubber for an effect in an ad. All we had to do was just get a Uniroyal tiger paw and start burning rubber, and you could burn till infinity. You know, it would never stop until you let off.
The GTO was a great idea, no question. It was a tremendously fun car and quite a competent piece of machinery engineering-wise, certainly by 1964 standards. From a marketing standpoint, the idea was brilliant, this whole factory muscle thing. But if the GTO was going to be a success, it was going to have to shake up the established order of things. Since the GTO first rolled out, Pontiac had been raising a few eyebrows in the motorsports establishment for having the audacity to give an American car, a two-door Tempest no less, the same name as one of the most revered sports cars in the world. And Pontiac was loving every minute of it.
Really, we created the whole concept as a spoof. Let's put a Ferrari GTO in competition with a Pontiac GTO. Now, I knew enough about the two cars to know that we had no business even being on the same road course with them. But if we ever could hook up in a straight line, we'd probably scare them a little bit.
You've got to admit, no one in their right mind would expect a Pontiac to measure up to a Ferrari in any comparison, with the possible exception of rear seat headroom. When the testing was over, though, the little GTO had done pretty well.
In those days, there wasn't an awful lot of real good timing equipment out. Car and Driver timed the story with handheld stopwatches. And I'm going to be very honest with you, you don't need me to tell you that this car couldn't run 0 to 100 in 11.8 seconds, falling straight off the top of the Empire State Building. But when I saw it in print, I wasn't going to tell them, hey guys, I think that's a little too fast.
In that original Car and Driver test, there were two GTOs present, and both of them were Pontiacs. Car and Driver explained that they had wanted to run the two cars together, but they were unable to persuade any of the lucky gentlemen who owned a Ferrari GTO to participate in their little shootout. Undaunted, they proceeded to flog the Pontiacs on the track at Daytona, and the numbers they published were astonishing. The GTO ran 0 to 60 in 4.6 seconds. It did 0 to 100 in 11.8. It ran the quarter mile in 13.1 seconds at 115 miles per hour. And its handling prompted the editors to state that we found that our Tempest GTO with a 348 horsepower engine to be a better car in many respects and will go around any U.S. road course faster than any Ferrari street machine. Think they were impressed? Well, there are a dozen or so quotes like this in that article which tells us they liked the car. But the one which might sum it up best is this one. Pontiac, God love him, went the hairy-chested route and came up with the best American car we have ever driven, and probably one of the 5 or 6 best cars in the world for the enthusiast driver. That about says it all. Whether you attribute it to being in the right place at the right time or the most brilliant marketing effort in Detroit history, the GTO succeeded fantastically and started Detroit on a binge of horsepower and performance that lasted over a decade. More than anything else, the GTO was a perfect blend of image and substance. It promised the young buyer the ride of a lifetime, and it made good. Today, the GTO is still making good on that promise. GTOs are favorites with car collectors and restorers, and its image as the first muscle car is as strong as ever. Just seeing one on the street brings back a flood of fond memories.
The 64 is such a unique car. It's the first GTO. And it's just, you get a different look in this car. People look at it and they just, it's like they saw a ghost or something. We wanted to build a GTO to not only replicate the Car and Driver test car, but we wanted to build a GTO that was probably the ultimate GTO for 1964. And we have a 421 engine in this, big car engine. It's date coded to the car, and it has a lot of Super Duty parts internally in the engine. And we created this car to come exactly like the blue Car and Driver car, which is missing in action now. And some say it was crushed, some say it was burned, some say it still exists. But it's a sister car to the red Royal Bobcat car. And when I saw the pictures of the plate in the magazine, I wanted to get that reproduced, and I did get it reproduced down in Florida. And it's a 1962 Michigan tag, and also I bought from a license plate dealer a 1963 corner tag. And the car is a very well-performing car, very streetable car, and our best time to date is a 1290 at 107 miles an hour. which is quite surprising for a car that looks extremely stock.
The GTO was a car for a person who liked cars and loved to drive a car to its limit. The people in charge at Pontiac Motor Division, the same people who designed and built the cars that swept the NASCAR tracks and took top eliminator at the NHRA drags, wanted to build an exciting car and put it within reach of a whole new generation of car enthusiasts. What they succeeded in doing was to create not just an exciting new car, but a whole new class of automobiles, the muscle cars. All those that came after, the Fairlane GTs, the Coronet RTs, the 442s, the Chevelle Supersports, all owe their lineage to the little GTO. In fact, the GTO set the stage for the great performance revival taking place in Detroit today. The issue is long settled, thanks to Car and Driver and John DeLorean, Jim Wangers, and probably all the midnight street racers through the years, as to whether a car from General Motors has the right to the name Gran Turismo Omologato. Over the 11-year period that Pontiac made the GTO, 1964 through 1974, over 700,000 cars rolled out of Pontiac assembly plants with those three little letters gleaming inside the left grille. That's about 695,000 more GTOs than Ferrari ever made. And that's exactly what Pontiac had in mind. GTO, Gran Turismo Omologato. We know what it means in Italian, but what it really means in English is, get turned on. Thanks for watching, and we hope you'll be with us again on the next issue of the American Muscle Car. Remember, don't crush them, restore them. The wildest piece of 60s pop art wasn't a painting or a sculpture. It was a fire-breathing, bright orange muscle car, the Judge. Muscle cars in the late 60s were outrageous. Compared to the original muscle cars of just 5 years earlier, they were absolutely unbelievable. And car buyers couldn't get enough of them. In those days, horsepower was almost unlimited. And there was more on the horizon. Performance parts and even racing equipment were standard. Styling had taken a very non-traditional turn. The muscle cars of the day were loud, proud, and bad to the bone. They had to be. Subtlety might have been a virtue in 1964 with cars like the 409 Impala, but in 1969, it wouldn't get you noticed on the streets. Into this scene, Pontiac threw a new concept car, the GTO Judge. It started out to be an economy muscle car, but by the time it hit the market, it was one of the most expensive road rockets anyone had ever made. Its job was to make the world sit up and take a new look at an old favorite, the GTO. It did that and a whole lot more. The Judge was only around for 3 years, 1969, 70, and 71. But during that time, it created a whole new market segment, just like its predecessor, the little GTO, had done 5 years earlier. It also opened up a whole new palette of color possibilities for the graphic designers, and it made a funny little gag line a national catchphrase. Pontiac had started this whole muscle car thing, and they had stayed at the head of the pack for the past 5 years. Their dominance was due to two factors. Their cars were fast, and everybody knew they were fast.
Pontiac certainly had owned that segment of the market with the GTO, having such a head start on all the rest of the competition. One of the things that began to happen is in the 1967 model year was Pontiac began to give the GTO more sophistication. A lot of cars were being delivered to customers with as many options as a Grand Prix would have, which pushed the price of the car up beyond the reach of a lot of younger owners.
The first GTOs had established in everyone's mind that the GTO was the fastest car on the street, and in muscle car marketing, image was as important as horsepower. But an interesting thing happens when you're the leader of the pack. Everyone comes gunning for you. As soon as the auto industry noticed the success of the GTO, all the other car companies had to have their own muscle car. The parade of super sports, grand sports, RTs, GTs, and all the rest offered not just performance, but image. And as all muscle car lovers knew, it wasn't enough just to be fast. You also had to look fast.
This whole image thing was really kind of a big deal to the kids at the drive-in. The cars with the rally wheels didn't go any slower or faster than the ones that just had the hubcaps, and cars with the stripes ran the same speed as the ones that didn't have them. But you looked fast, and that was a really big deal. It made the whole thing a lot more fun too.
The problem facing the automakers was how to get their muscle car to stand out among the dozens of fast, fun cars competing for attention in the marketplace. The first company to figure out how to do this was Plymouth. When we come back, the muscle car industry takes a whole new direction. By 1968, big engines, white letter tires, and dual exhaust pipes were just the starting point for muscle car manufacturers. Now the cars had to have racing stripes, air scoops that worked, a spoiler or two, and most of all, they needed a catchy name. There was the Dodge RT, that stood for Road and Track. There was the Super Sport, which was self-explanatory, and the Super B, which wasn't, and the GSX, and a dozen others. But in the middle of all these tough-sounding names came a new car from Plymouth with a name that was just plain cute. It was called the Roadrunner.
And the Roadrunner, I won't say it alarmed Pontiac management, but it certainly was a wake-up call for them. And they recognized that they had lost a significant portion of the youth market.
The Roadrunner offered exceptional good looks and plenty of power for under $3,000. And it was an instant success. It was built precisely according to the muscle car formula. A light, attractive body, a big, powerful engine at an affordable price. To top it all off, it even went, what more could you want? 1968 was also a major restyling year at General Motors, and the 68 GTO's new look was a huge success. The GTO featured the first energy-absorbing front bumper. Called the Endura bumper, it was also the first in the industry to be painted body color. With all these new innovations and the gorgeous new body, Pontiac sold some 90,000 GTOs in '68, but Plymouth's new Roadrunner sold close to 45,000 cars that same year. Pontiac saw this as a challenge to its dominance in the muscle car marketplace.
John DeLorean, who was general manager of Pontiac, put together what he called an ad hoc committee. This was an unofficial group of executives that would study the market and make recommendations about future product.
The rivalry between the Judge and the Roadrunner was a natural because you had two competing manufacturers. You had Chrysler Corporation, it was doing great guns, it really hit a nerve with their populist Roadrunner, and you had the GTO Judge, which was also based on a very popular car, the GTO. There were a lot of similarities between standard engines. You know, there was similar displacement. Both cars were aimed at delivering maximum bang for the buck.
By now, it wasn't hard to spend over $4,000 on a nicely optioned GTO. It was one of the fanciest muscle cars on the street. If Pontiac brought out a low-cost GTO, it wouldn't have a lot of the nice things people had come to expect.
Out of the ad hoc committee came a recommendation to build a low-priced GTO that would be stripped of a lot of options, keeping the price down, give it a pretty wild paint job, some kind of pop art graphics, and go head-to-head with the Roadrunner in terms of price and image.
Like the Roadrunner, the design committee suggested offering only a front bench seat instead of bucket seats, limited interior and exterior color choices, no hood scoops, and no chrome trim rings for the rally wheels. The car wouldn't even have the Endura bumper that everyone loved. It would have the regular Le Mans chrome bumper.
One of the ideas was to put a 350 HO in it and take the hood tack and put a matching shell on the passenger side. And that was going to be a little air intake, like a little Cal induction air intake. They brought the car to completion and presented it to DeLorean. And DeLorean took one look at it and said, not as long as I'm general manager of Pontiac is there ever going to be a 350 engine in a GTO. The GTO is a flagship car of this division, and it's always going to have at least a 400 cubic inch engine in it.
DeLorean had just set the parameters for the new low-buck GTO. His order was, first, make it go fast, then figure out how to cut the price. Stay with us as Pontiac goes back to the drawing board on the American muscle car. John DeLorean liked the idea of a low-cost muscle car, but his orders were clear. Start with Pontiac's best engine and build around that. What the designers came up with on their second try was quite a bit different. The first thing to go was the two-door sedan body. This new GTO would be offered only in the two-door hardtop and the convertible. Next, the bench seat was out, and the GTO's plush bucket seats were back in. The design team went right down the line, putting back the elements that made a GTO, like the Endura front bumper and the GTO hood with the scoops. By the time they were done, the only cost-saving measure that remained from the original design was the absence of trim rings on the rally wheels. What had started out to be a low-cost GTO turned out in the final design to be the most expensive GTO you could buy. DeLorean's command to get that 350 engine out of there was met with immediate and enthusiastic reaction. The designers didn't just replace it with the 400 cubic inch engine, they went all the way and put in the two brawniest 400s in Pontiac's inventory.
Standard engine on the GTO Judge was a 400 cubic inch Ram Air 3, they called it. And it was strong, but it wasn't as strong as the optional Ram Air 4, which is really a state-of-the-art V8 at that time. It had superior head design, superior exhaust manifolds, and if you drove the car right, you could really scream into the low 13s through the quarter mile.
Pontiac's Ram Air engines had been developed from the early Super Duty and high-output power plants. All GTOs had sported hood scoops, but the only ones that actually worked were the Ram Air scoops.
The Ram Air system consisted of three major components. You had an upper pan which bolted to the bottom side of the hood, which contained flapper valves which fit actually inside the hood scoops themselves, which open and shut. They were actuated by a pull cable underneath the driver's side dashboard, and when the driver opened these hood scoops, it fed cold air directly from the scoops right down into a lower pan which fit over the carburetor and sealed to the bottom of the hood with a piece of foam rubber. And it was a really catchy little device. It was worth about 5 horsepower maybe.
There were two versions of the Ram Air 400 available for the Judge in 1969. The Ram Air 3, rated at 366 horsepower, and the Ram Air 4, rated at 370 horsepower.
The Ram Air 4 is equipped with a little bit different engine components, and it seems to run quite a lot better than the Ram Air 3.
The Ram Air 4 cylinder heads were redesigned with large, round exhaust ports, which improved exhaust flow. The Ram Air 4 cam was a little wilder than the 3's, and it made its peak horsepower at 5,500 RPM versus the 3's 5,100 RPM. Both engines were rated at 445 foot-pounds of torque.
You really couldn't tell a Ram Air 3 from a Ram Air 4 engine just by walking by and looking under the hood. It was they were absolutely identical. The Ram Air 4 heads had different casting numbers on them. If you knew where to look there, you could tell. But other than that, if you wanted to tell the difference between a Ram Air 3 and a Ram Air 4, you had to go back behind the car and listen. The Ram Air 4 had an idle that you just, it was the sexiest, most aggressive idle that you'd ever heard in your entire life. Every Pontiac owner loves to hear a Ram Air 4 car.
So now the new idea committee went back to DeLorean with this redesigned version of the GTO ET, which no longer bore any resemblance to the Roadrunner or any other cheap car for that matter. The ET was now GTO through and through, and it was loaded down with the most expensive hardware as standard equipment. For a final touch, they chose an unforgettable color scheme.
One of the most exciting aspects of it visually was the paint, which was called Carousel Red, which was a Firebird color in 1969. It wasn't offered on the GTO. So they chose that because it was a very wild, bright paint scheme. And they went through several different designs on the striping that went on the side.
Well, as the story goes, this time when DeLorean got to drive the car and saw the entire concept, he was all smiles. He loved it. He said, yeah, this is exactly what we ought to be doing here. But I'm not crazy about this ET nickname, though. He said, I think what we ought to do is call it the Judge. I mean, there's this guy on TV that constantly saying, here comes the Judge. Well, let's give him the Judge.
The final element was now in place, the catchy name. Thus was born the ultimate GTO, the Judge, the wildest muscle car anyone had ever seen. And just like the 1964 GTO, it had to prove itself to a skeptical automotive press corps. Stay with us as America discovers the Judge on the American Muscle Car. December 8th, 1968 was a beautiful day at Riverside Raceway in Southern California. The motoring press was all gathered at the invitation of Pontiac to witness the unveiling of two new cars for the 1969 season. A sporty road racer called the Trans Am and the latest outrageous mobile in the muscle car wars, the Judge. Their initial reaction was not what Pontiac was hoping for.
There's a really great man in Pontiac history by the name of Jim Wangers, and Jim was responsible for all of Pontiac's advertising back in the wide track days and all of the really aggressive Tiger commercials, and he was actually on the committee to help build the Judge. And according to Jim, when they rolled out the Judge that day at Riverside Raceway, he said he had never seen a more negative reaction from the automotive press corps to a new car. He said it was really clear to him that the press didn't have the slightest idea what they were trying to do. They didn't get the joke, and it was just really not a happy day.
The press may have laughed at the Judge with its loud colors and pop art graphics, but muscle car buyers saw the car for what it was.
Well, a few muscle car buyers ventured down to the Pontiac dealership and took a look at the Judge and took a test drive, and a Ram Air 3 and a Ram Air 4 motor especially really got their attention, and pretty soon word was out on the street that this car was pretty fast.
When the Judge hit the streets, Pontiac made sure that every one of them was equipped with all their go-fast stuff. If you ordered a 69 GTO with a Judge option package, the only engines you could get were the Ram Air 3 or 4 400s. The only transmission options were the heavy-duty M40 automatic or the Muncie 4-speeds with Hurst shifters. The Judge option also included the ride and handling package, G70x14 wide oval tires on 14x6 rally wheels, and the heavy-duty safety track rear end. Judges were easy to spot at drag strips all over America, and not just because of their bright paint jobs. 80% of all 69 Judges were sold in that eye-popping shade of orange. A carousel red, that is. Initially, this was the Judge's only color, but by mid-69, the Judge would be available in any GTO color. The Judge did exactly what it was supposed to do for the GTO. It made people sit up and take notice. This powerful concept gave the ad men some wonderful opportunities.
When the Judge came out, there was one particular ad that I remember. It showed a guy in a racing jacket standing next to this bright orange 69 carousel red Judge with a line underneath it that said, "The Judge can be bought." Well, again, Jim Wangers tells the story that it wasn't but a couple of weeks before Pontiac started getting letters from the American Bar Association. It seemed the lawyers sort of took offense at this, so, you know, they knew people were watching.
The automotive press took a little while to convince, but the general public caught on a lot faster. As a method of drawing attention to the GTO, the Judge was a hit. And as a crowd pleaser with the car-buying public, it was an over-the-top success. Some 6,800 GTOs with a Judge option sold in 1969, almost 10% of all GTO sales that year. The Judge did so well that it was continued for 1970, the most amazing year ever for the muscle car. What had started as a one-time only splash in the marketplace was now a fixture in the GTO's option list. Very little changed in 1970 for the Judge, except to redesign the sandwich board rear spoiler and add an engine option. Following the DeLorean dictum, it was a big engine.
The 455 HO was basically a bored-out Ram Air 400 car. It still had the round port intakes and all that. You know, those extra 55 cubes really helped.
1970 also saw another big color splash for the Judge. This year's special color was a brilliant shade of yellow called Orbit Orange. It became a Judge trademark. But an era was ending, and the first indication that the muscle cars were dying might have been in the advertising.
By 1970, you could pretty much see that Pontiac was getting really tired of taking all the heat for building all these really aggressive cars, and their advertising really reflected it. They had a couple of aggressive ads like they did in the old days, but a lot of their marketing thrust was towards presenting it as a sort of a gentleman's motoring car rather than the old street sweeper that it used to be.
Nonetheless, the Judge lived on into 1971 with a totally redesigned front end and performance that was downplayed in favor of image. In 1971, the compression ratio fell to 8.5 to 1 as the whole industry responded to the demand for lower horsepower and emissions control. Significantly, though, the 71 455 HO actually outperformed the 70 Ram Air 4 engine. Originally, the Judge was to be a one-year-only car, but today's owners of 70 and 71 Judges are glad Pontiac continued to make them for 2 more years. The later Judges are even more collectible and just as much fun as those bright orange ones from 1969.
The 1971 Judge was truly an American muscle car work of art. It was big, it had rounded lines, it had a big fin on the back, it had an honest 448 pounds of torque and 335 horsepower on a dyno.
Just like the little GTO did in 1964, the Judge took it on the chin for being the first of its kind, but it finally earned the respect it deserved as a milestone among muscle cars. After its initial attempt at being a Roadrunner imitator, the Judge went the other way and became the first of the high-concept muscle cars. All the Superbirds and GSXs that followed its outrageous appearance and enhanced performance owe their specialness in the muscle car era to the Judge.
There's not many of them left, so if you can get one and restore it, it's much better. It helps the car enthusiasts, especially the muscle car era, and as far as I'm concerned, these are much nicer than a new car today. Once you get into it, you gotta go all the way through with it, and once you get started, you can't stop. You just keep putting more together, painting this, painting that, finding the parts for it. It's actually a great hobby to get into.
When you do get it done and you roll it out, you get a chance to, first of all, show it to people that remember what it was. They were there, and they all have a personal relationship with the car, too. But not only that, when you show it to younger people, a lot of them look and they see, and they kind of wonder in their minds, you know, why aren't we making cars like this today? And, you know, there's a lot of good reasons why we're not making cars like this today. And today's cars are some pretty fantastic pieces, but all of these cars had a personality, that had a character of its own, and when you can turn a young person onto that and they can respect that and they can get a little enjoyment out of that too, that's just icing on the cake.
The GTO Judge was a big splash of color as the 60s came to a close. Sort of an exclamation point at the end of an incredible decade. Thanks for watching, and remember, don't crush them, restore them. Some people don't think the Corvette is a muscle car, but those people have never driven one. Take it from us, this car has plenty of muscle. Welcome to the American muscle car, and America's first real sports car, the Chevrolet Corvette. From the very beginning, Corvette was a special car. It was born during the plain vanilla Eisenhower years, and in a market full of drab, look-alike cars, it was a breath of fresh air. For the first time, a major Detroit automaker took a shot at building a car to rival the classic European two-seater. The effort was led by two giants in the American automobile industry, Harley J. Earl, GM's head of styling, and Ed Cole, in charge of engineering. These men held the notion that cars were fun in general, and sports cars were particularly fun. And so they applied talent, genius, and influence within General Motors to create just such a car. They kept it alive during its troubled, uncertain first few years, until it became the world's greatest sports car. GM had really been overly optimistic when it gauged the size of the sports car market in America in the early 50s. They actually thought they could sell 20,000 Corvettes a year. In fact, the entire U.S. sports car market probably wasn't 20,000 cars in 1953. And when Chevrolet sold less than 3,000 Corvettes in 53, 54, and 55 altogether, well, it's a miracle the Corvette stayed around. It's a good thing for Corvette lovers everywhere that the axe didn't fall in 1955. Had that happened, the world would never have seen this car, the one many people call the most beautiful Corvette ever. The Vette for 1956 was very definitely not the same car that hadn't sold in its first 3 years. The 56 Corvette was, well, it was a Corvette.
I want a Corvette.
This was the Corvette Harley Earl had under wraps. This car had been ready to debut, complete with the magnificent small block V8 in 1955. However, the massive costs of redesigning and retooling Chevrolet's entire passenger car line had caused the GM brass to delay the introduction of this body style 1 year. And that 1 year delay was almost disastrous.
Also in 1955, Ford's Thunderbird hit. And while GM was struggling trying to sell Corvettes, Ford was having a field day with the Thunderbird, selling 16,000 units. So the car that appeared like it was the Corvette's chief competitor, ironically proved to be the Corvette's salvation. Because had Chevrolet pulled the plug on the Corvette at that time, it would have appeared to everybody that was watching that Ford had beaten Chevy. And that was something they couldn't afford.
The 56 Corvette looked fabulous. The styling features everyone liked stayed, and all the cutesy little gimmicks were gone, replaced by strong touches which would define Corvette for years to come. In the biggest styling change, the Corvette coves appeared on the body sides, one of the most distinctive automotive styling elements in the world. The 56 Vette was full of creature comforts too. For the first time, the Vette had real roll-up windows. And you could even order power windows.
While the European sports cars, the Austin Healey's, the MGs, the Triumphs, may have been the inspiration for the Corvette, Corvette had to forge its own identity in the United States. This was a different market and a different car.
When you drove the 56 Vette, the first thing you noticed was horsepower. The 265 V8 was now the standard engine. The 6 was gone forever, and it was warmed up to 210 horsepower with higher 9.25:1 compression and a higher lift cam. If you wanted to go the whole route, you could order it with an aluminum intake manifold and dual 4-barrel carbs for a net 240 horsepower. Part of the Corvette's mystique is that every year the car became more powerful, it handled better, and it became more of a driver's machine. This was largely due to a Chevrolet division engineer named Zora Arkus Duntov. Duntov had joined GM's engineering, research, and development staff in 1953 and had been intrigued by the Corvette since the first model. His efforts to correct some handling problems on the 53 through 55 models had already made the Corvette a much better car. In 1956, he knew just what they had to do to really get the world to sit up and take notice of the Corvette. They had to go racing. Zora Arkus Duntov was a world-class automotive engineer. He was also a racing driver, and he knew a few racing victories would really elevate the Corvette's image. Duntov put Corvettes in the hands of some really accomplished American racers of the day, and the car did quite well. This performance momentum carried the Vette through 1956 and right into 1957. By the beginning of the 57 model year, you heard no more talk from the corporation about dropping the Vette.
The information and the development that he brought back from the racetrack went right into the car for 57. 57, you had big brakes, 4-speed transmission, which was long overdue, improved suspension parts, and for the first time, a milestone breakthrough, 1 horsepower per cubic inch with a 283 fueling.
But in just 3 years, Ed Cole's little small block, further enhanced by the incredible efforts of the Chevrolet engine team, was rapidly becoming the engine to beat. What they did was bore the 265 1/8 of an inch to make it 283 cubic inches. The optional dual 4-barrel induction system was enhanced to now produce 270 horsepower. On some models, though, a strange device appeared where you'd normally expect to find the carburetors. Duntov had been working on a fuel injection system since early 1956. In fact, he'd almost killed himself testing a Corvette with an early design injection unit at GM's test track. He finally felt the unit was ready for production for the 1957 models. And this fuel injection is what finally helped Chevy achieve the holy grail of 1 horsepower per cubic inch. With fuel injection, the 57 Corvette was the fastest accelerating American production car ever made up to that time.
So the 57 Corvette could run 0 to 60 in 7.5 seconds. It would blaze through the quarter mile in 14.3, which was quick enough to knock off a lot of the classic muscle cars from the 60s. And so here's the car now defining the cutting edge of Chevrolet performance. And what do they run into? The 1957 AMA ban on racing.
This gentleman's agreement between the Detroit car makers should have sharply curtailed development of performance cars. But the net effect on the Corvette, thanks to Zora Arkus Duntov, was nothing. He ignored the edicts completely and continued making a faster, better handling car. Coming out of 1957, sales were up, the car had the respect of the motoring world, and one of the strongest performance images of any car in America. But for 1958, the Vette was due to receive another facelift. For some purists, what they came up with was a bit of a step backwards.
I had an opportunity to get a ride from Niagara Falls, New York to Cleveland, Ohio in a 58 Corvette. It was a convertible, we had the top down, and a Thunderbird started to pass us, and the gentleman driving the Corvette said, "Nobody passes us, let alone a Thunderbird." And he shifted the thing down into third, wound it up to 105, then shifted to fourth. We continued up to about 130, left that Thunderbird in the dust.
The 58 Vette was Harley Earl's last Corvette, and it did include some classically Earl touches. Fake louvers on the hood, chrome strips on the trunk lid, bigger and heavier bumpers. In the style of the day, the Vet went to quad headlamps, surrounded by a chrome bezel which tied into a chrome strip down the top of each front fender. The new instrument panel was a welcome change for drivers. Underneath, it was a Zora Arcas Duntov car, even if it was gussied up topside. The big news for 1958 was, for the first time, the Corvette turned a profit for Chevrolet. 9,816 Corvettes were sold in this first year of a recession, and it was one of the few American cars to actually sell more cars in '58 than in '57. For the Corvette, it was a long overdue success. 59 and 60 concentrated on refining the car's engineering, and by 1960, the 283's compression ratio had increased to 11:1. Horsepower for this top-of-the-line engine was up to 315 at 6,200 RPM, and there was a hydraulic lifter engine which produced a very nice 275 horsepower. Another milestone was reached when Chevrolet dropped the Powerglide from the option list. The reason? It couldn't handle all the horsepower and torque the new engines were making. Harley Earl ended his over 30-year career at General Motors in 1958. Taking his position as head of the styling department was his protege, Bill Mitchell. Mitchell's first models were the 59s. Mitchell shared all of Harley Earl's passion for the Corvette, but none of his affinity for fins and chrome trim. The Vet remained pretty much unchanged all the way through 1960, except for removing some chrome and smoothing out the fake hood louvers. Starting in 1961, though, the Corvette got its first Bill Mitchell styling change, and it was fantastic, a hint of things to come.
The very first Corvette I remember seeing, and it was a friend of my dad's, and I think I was about 7 years old that year. The first thing that I remember that impressed me all the heck about the car was the speedometer went to 160 miles an hour. And when you're 7 years old and impressionable, it makes a difference.
Reggie Derez is a Corvette enthusiast whose love for the car started early in life and has endured until he now owns the show-quality 61 model.
And one thing I'm particularly proud of, and we've been gathering the pieces for almost 5 years, and thanks goes out to all my friends who helped me out, we are finally able to piece together an original dual 4-barrel setup for the car, which was available as an option that year in 1961. And each piece you see there was gathered one at a time, painstakingly, and from swap meets and from friends coming up with parts and finding parts for me and gifts at birthdays, etc. So it wasn't like we went down to the local auto parts and ordered one dual quad setup. So we put a lot of time and effort into this. I'm particularly proud, and I'm really thrilled because it just it runs so good. And this is one of the few dual quad setups that's ever gone together with almost no adjustment and runs great. Martin Milner, where are you?
Before '61, the Corvette had been merely one of the nicer cars in America. Now, it was to die for. The car seemed to symbolize the energy of the '60s. It said, that was then, this is now.
The only difference is gas isn't 19 cents a gallon anymore. That's the only thing I miss.
Bill Mitchell's first Vet drew heavily from his XP700 show car and also from the Stingray Racer. This was basically just a facelift of the 1956 design, but the whole thing looked new and fresh. The old 50s-looking chrome grille was gone, replaced by a recessed chrome mesh grille. The taillight panel and rear deck was completely new, with 4 little recessed tail lamps. The new rear end design was actually functional. It increased trunk space by 20%. It's unclear, though, how many people chose to buy the Corvette for that feature. There were more choices under the hood in 1961, too. The 283 now came in 5 different versions, from a 230 horsepower single 4-barrel version all the way up to 315 horses. The 270 and 315 horse engines were fuel injected. The 3-speed manual transmission was now standard, with the 4-speed box an option. In a bit of a surprise, the Powerglide Trans was back as an option on the 2 lower horsepower engines. Performance continued to increase with every powertrain package. Even the 230-horse single 4-barrel Power Glide-equipped Vet would do 0 to 60 in just a shade over 7.5 seconds. The Fuelie 4-speed model would knock 2 seconds off that time. The Vet was definitely the stoplight bandit in 1961.
By now the Corvette was such a tight package that a nearly stock one went to Sebring and was dicing with the factory works, Ferraris, Porsches, all the really hot stuff, placed 11th.
Coming into the 1962 model year, this Corvette design had been in production for 7 years. Yet if anyone was growing tired of it, it didn't show. In 1961, 10,931 Corvettes were produced, a far cry from the 1955 production of only 700 units. It seemed like Chevrolet could continue to sell this car forever.
Well, I bought it brand new. I took delivery April 4th, 1962, and I had to buy it out of stock because it was like a 12-week waiting list. And so I took what I wanted, I found the color I wanted, and the metallic brakes and the high-performance motor, and the red was the only way to go in '62. It wasn't red, it wasn't a Corvette.
The 1962 Corvette continued the pattern of the past 7 years by mildly upgrading the body styling and trim and continuing to make improvements to the engine and chassis. The 62 was undoubtedly the cleanest style since 1956. The chrome accents and the coves were minimized. The mesh grille was black instead of chrome. The rest of the car looked pretty much the same, but for the first time, the heater was standard equipment. By far, though, the big news was, as usual, under the hood. From 265 to 283, now to 327. The small block underwent its second major displacement change, and the base model now pumped out 250 horsepower, more than the hottest 265 6 years ago. Gone forever was the dual 4-barrel carburation system, but you could still get 300 horses easily from a single 4-barrel 327. With new cylinder heads which offered bigger ports, the Duntov solid lifter cam, 11.25 to 1 compression, and fuel injection, the top model 327 now made 360 horsepower. Sales of the 62 were up 40% over 1961. Over 14,000 62 Corvettes rolled off the assembly line. By now, this car was an American legend, and it achieved this status the good old American way, by starting out on the right track and getting better and better every year.
Oh, in Detroit, we had Cruise and Woodward, Telegraph. It was like a nightly occurrence. You had to be out on Telegraph. Thursday night was race night out on the freeway, which I paid my dues on that. Cost me my driver's license before I left for the military.
From when I was 6 and 7 years old, you wanted a Corvette. You just didn't realize what it took to accomplish that. The enjoyment of just working on the car is not only therapeutic, it just gives you a really sense of accomplishment. I've preserved a little piece of automotive history.
Some people don't consider Corvette a muscle car. Because of its sporty car heritage, or perhaps because it's always been sort of a big-ticket item. Or maybe because the Corvette has always been at home with the sports car crowd, the Corvette sometimes doesn't get the credit it deserves as a real muscle machine. But at a time when American cars featured hydromatic drive, torsion bar suspension, and yards of sheet metal, a group of car nuts, led by a few legendary giants in the American car industry, stuck their necks out and made a little car and kept it alive. They kept improving it and didn't lose their focus, so that today, 45 years later, the car has become a world-class performance car. The second generation Corvette, 1956 to 1962, was the springboard to what some have called the greatest American car ever made, the Stingray. Even if a car with a 6-cylinder engine doesn't deserve the title muscle car in everyone's book, that first little upside-down bathtub with the funny little taillights made it all possible. In the final analysis, the second-generation Corvette was simply an amazing car. It was well-engineered, extremely trouble-free, and every year it got better. The newest engineering, the best technology that General Motors could develop, every year found its way into the Corvette. And in what must surely be the best tribute to its first daddy, Harley Earl, every model of the Corvette ever made still looks great.
To me, it was my era. I grew up with the 62s, and I guess that's what you fall back on, what you liked when you were younger.
The sleek body style, the big engines, the V8, the power, all of us at that time really were into power. So Corvettes were just an American dream come true.
I see a lot of people spend a lot of money, go out and golf for a lot of great vacations. This is where I spend my money, and I enjoy it.
There's just something nostalgic about all the manual aspects of this car that kind of bring you back to your childhood, or remind you when times were a little bit simpler and cars were kind of fun to work on. But the bottom line, doggone it, it's fun.
Remember the old saying about success having many fathers? Well, you'd have to expect this kind of success when your daddies were Harley Earl, Ed Cole, and Zora Arcas Duntov. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week on the American Muscle Car. Chevy's little pony car was a winner right from the very beginning. Today on the American Muscle Car, the Chevy Camaro. Through the years, Chevrolet has been responsible for some of the most exciting cars ever built in the United States. Thanks to some genuine car lovers from within its corporate ranks, the succession of just plain fun Chevys has been practically continuous. Starting with the legendary 55 Bel Air. Chevrolet offered basic cars with long option lists that empowered their customers with the ability to tailor-make their Chevys to suit their tastes. From mild to wild. In 1967, Chevrolet introduced one of the most extensively researched, well-designed, and well-engineered cars they've ever brought to market. Whatever this little car did, it did well. Welcome to Chevrolet's entry into the pony car market, and one of the most popular cars ever built, the Camaro. There was something new in the showrooms in 1967. In fact, there was a whole stampede of new cars hitting the market that year. The media called them pony cars.
Mustang. Mustang.
Ford invented the pony car back in 1964, and since then, the Mustang had been the big player. But in 1967, it was going to be a horse of a different color. The Camaro was Chevy's long-awaited answering shot to the Mustang. The Chevrolet F-Body design team had begun work on the Camaro in August of 1964, as soon as it was plain that the Mustang was going to be a world beater. Unlike the Mustang, which used the existing Falcon platform, most of the Camaro was designed from the ground up as a completely new vehicle.
A lot of people think that the Camaro was just a fancied up Nova. And while it's true that they shared a lot of the same bolt-on parts, the Camaro was a brand new idea.
This new idea would start with a totally new body. This car would have a wheelbase of 108 inches and weigh in at just a shade over 3,200 pounds. The look was definitely pony car, with a long hood and short deck lid, but it shared no body lines with any of Chevy's other small, sporty cars. The designers in the marketing department knew that in order to make a dent in the Mustang sales, the Camaro was going to have to look all new from every angle. Like the Mustang, it was going to have to look classy and expensive, but be affordable. Chevy also decided from the very start that this little car needed to appeal to the widest possible consumer base. And the way you do that is give the car a huge option list. The Camaro was designed to be an exciting little package for just about everybody. If you wanted a sporty car that got good mileage, order your Camaro with a 6-cylinder engine and the 3-speed transmission. If you were in the market for a sports car, a Rally Sport with a 327 and a 4-speed was just the thing. And if you wanted a muscle car, check the box marked Super Sport. Of course, this kind of flexibility doesn't just happen. Chevy's engineers had designed this into the car from day one. Chevy's engineers had developed a completely new chassis and underbody for the Camaro that utilized a front subframe, carrying all the front suspension and engine mounting hardware bolted to a unit body tub. The unit body tub was less expensive to manufacture and lighter than a full-frame car. Thanks to the front subframe design, the car could use a conventional front suspension with upper and lower control arms and a coil spring in between, which gave the Camaro much better handling and ride qualities. Most importantly, this layout permitted any powertrain combination in Chevy's inventory to fit into the Camaro. Chevy's designers did everything right. With this gorgeous body and the long option list, the Camaro was a car for everyone. And the car-buying public jumped all over it. '67 was the most exciting year to date for the muscle car. The pony car had finally come of age. The Camaro was perfectly timed to hit the market right on this upsurge. Only 2 body styles were available for the Camaro, a Sport Coupe for $2,466 and a convertible which had a base price of $2,704. For just $106 more, you could graduate from the 6-cylinder engine to the 327 V8. The Super Sport option would set you back another $105. And for this sum you got, in addition to the 295-horse 350, all the SS identification, D70x14 wide oval red line tires, and the all-important SS hood with the non-functional hood scoop inserts. Initially, the Super Sport Camaro's most powerful engine option was the 295 horsepower small block 350. The SS 350 Camaro was a very respectable performer, capable of low 14-second quarter miles. But in a textbook case of overkill, for an additional $263, your SS Camaro could have rolled off the dealer lot with a 325 horsepower 396, and for about double that amount, the 375 horse 396. The Rat motor, already becoming a legend in the SS Impalas and Chevelles, was about to turn up the heat on a horsepower war that was already boiling. Back in 1967, every car maker was offering increased horsepower, more torque, and more cubic inches. The big dogs were taking over the streets, and everyone else had better stay on the porch. This was not good news for the first-generation pony cars, whose go-fast image was being destroyed every time they lined up against one of Detroit's muscle-bound intermediates.
The pony cars started out with a big wave of excitement and publicity, but the muscle cars really came on strong and began to overshadow them. The little small block Barracudas and Mustangs were performance cars, but in a different vein. They emphasized handling and overall balance, where the big block muscle cars really delivered a torque punch.
The Rat motor had debuted at the 1963 Daytona 500 as the Mark IIS 427. 563 Impalas ran in the 500 that year, and none of them finished. But Junior Johnson's car and the Smoky unit car, driven by Johnny Rutherford, were capable of lapping the Daytona Speedway at up to 8 miles an hour faster than the Holman Moody Fords, which eventually won the race. The two versions of the 396 offered in the 67 SS Camaro were the hydraulic cam 325 horsepower engine with a single Rochester quadrajet carburetor on a cast iron intake manifold, and a shut-up-and-hang-on 375 horsepower engine with 11-to-1 compression, a Holley carburetor on an aluminum intake manifold, solid lifter camshaft, and low-restriction exhaust manifolds. With the 396-375, Camaro took the short route to the top of the muscle car status board, and the lines between muscle car and pony car were forever blurred. By the end of model year 1967, the Camaro had chalked up fantastic first-year sales of over 220,000 cars. Chevy was poised to sail into 1968. Stay with us as we continue the Camaro story on the American muscle car. Camaro enjoyed another year of widespread popularity from this same basic body style in 1968. Its nose was slightly more pointed, and there were a few other subtle differences, like big, bold stripes along its side. But basically, Chevrolet chose not to fix a body style that very definitely wasn't broken. Once again, the exterior looked the same, but there was big news under the hood.
68, there was good news and bad news. The good news was the appearance of the L89 option, which gave you aluminum cylinder heads. They were the same as the iron cylinder heads as far as port size and valve size, but they shaved 40 pounds of weight off the overall package. The downside was that 68 also was the first year where you began to see the air pump as a pollution control device.
Style and comfort options were plentiful for the Camaro, and Chevy grouped them together in convenient, inexpensive packages. There were style trim groups for $29 and interior trim groups for $11, which added things like chrome wheel well moldings, body side stripes, and chrome moldings for the drip rails, chrome accents on the foot pedals, and shiny windshield moldings. The custom interior group, which sold for $95, upgraded the Camaro's standard, rather sparse base interior with accents on the seats and a 3-spoke steering wheel, all designed to impart a special upscale look and feel to the Camaro. Camaro's most popular option package was Rally Sport, which included all the style and trim options from the other groups, along with lower body moldings and body accent stripes. The most noticeable item in the package was disappearing headlights. Priced at a bargain basement $105, nearly 41,000 RS Camaros were built in 1968. When you added the SS option package to the RS, you had another choice to make, but it was a very pleasant choice. You chose between the 295 horse 350 or any one of the three 396s available that year. The 325 and the 375 horse versions from 1967, or the all-new 350 horse version for 1968. The Super Sport option package included special SS badging, which replaced the RS fender badges, body side stripes, red line tires, dual exhausts, and an all-new SS hood for 1968, containing yet more imitation air intakes. If you'd already selected a few other little things like positraction, the heavy-duty close-ratio Muncie M22 4-speed, power disc brakes, and a high-performance rear axle ratio, your Camaro was loaded with just about every performance and appearance option in Chevy's catalog. This is not to say that you were done optioning your Camaro at this point. No, Chevy's comfort and convenience option list was so extensive that you could run the price of your Camaro into the mid-$4,000 range without breaking a sweat. But if you were on a budget, you could have a Camaro with just a 396 375-horse engine, a 4-speed, and a posi rear without too much of the other frou-frou, which is consistent with the original muscle car idea, putting the biggest engine in the lightest, least expensive body. You didn't have to look any farther than the sales figures for Camaro in 1968 to see that the late 60s were intensely competitive years in the car business, particularly in the performance and youth markets. This was a real "what have you done for me lately" market segment, and in the second year of this body style, 235,000 lucky people drove home in one. Coming into 1969, Chevrolet was ready with its first redesign of the Camaro. And when we return, we'll show you what some people call the best Camaro ever made. Stay with us on the American Muscle Car. The 69 Camaro wasn't so much a redesign as it was an extensive facelift. The car still used the same subframe and floor pan, but the body sides were completely different. Taking a page from an old Chevy styling department favorite, the 56 Mercedes-Benz 300 SL, the Camaro's fender lips were more pronounced and created a line running from the top of the front fender arch all the way to the rear of the car.
In 69, you had a lot of elements that came together in the Camaro. There was a purity of styling still with the first generation. And the 69 Camaros were all over the place. They were in every neighborhood, at every drive-in. And there was also a proliferation of great engines available in this model. SS396 and 3 different horsepower ratings. You could, if you knew how, you could get an iron 427. Yanko was scoring big with the SYC Super Camaro. And the Camaro would just seem to touch the nerve. It was the right styling and the right engines at the right time in the market.
Engine options for 69 comprised a dazzling array of choices. There were 2 different 6-cylinder engines, 4 small blocks, or 4 different 396s. However, there was one engine that never made the option list. But the 1,015 people who managed to get their hands on a 69 Camaro with this engine were lucky people indeed. This is what Chevy called Central Office Production Order number 9516. Everyone else called it Copo.
These cars, when you're racing them, they're just an amazing car. They just rev so easily. There's no work to it whatsoever. It's just the car loves to rev, wants to go 6,500, 7,000 RPM. You just sit in it, mash it to the floor, and hang on. And like I said, next thing you know, you're doing 108 mile an hour, and you're through the end traps. Back in 1986, I bought a Copo Nova that was sold in Canada, and it was one of only 2 that was sold in Canada, and the other one was crushed. So at that point I thought, geez, it'd be great to have the Copo Camaro and the Copo Chevelle, because they only made the 3 Copos. So I pursued the Copo Camaro and finally came up with it. The whole purpose of or thought behind the 69 Copo was to be as sleeperish as possible. There's no outside engine identification on it whatsoever. It has plain dog dish hubcaps with painted stamped steel wheels. The idea was when you pulled up in the other lane, it just people look over and say, oh, well, it's just a little 350 car.
Probably the rarest of all first-generation Camaros, though, is this car. This is one of 69 Copo Camaros made with a ZL1 all-aluminum 427 cubic inch engine. Developed originally for Can-Am racing, the ZL1 was absurdly rated at 430 horsepower, which no one believed. The steel-sleeved aluminum block used the L89's large rectangular port aluminum heads for a compression ratio of 12:1. It also featured a Holley 850 carburetor on the factory aluminum intake manifold and cast iron exhaust headers. The aluminum ZL1 weighed only a few pounds more than the cast iron small block 350 and was legal for NHRA A stock and B stock competition. This engine in the Camaro sent shockwaves through the competition.
With the all-aluminum ZL1 engine, the drag racers like Grumpy Jenkins had a field day with it. They jumped all over it. 69 was a great year for Camaro drag racing, and that's just another reason that 69 has to be considered one of the best Camaros ever.
Among today's car enthusiasts, the Camaro is even more popular than it was back in the late 60s. Younger enthusiasts find the car more exciting than many of today's youth-oriented cars. And for those who remember the muscle years, the passion still lives on. More supercars were created from the 69 Camaro than any other, like this 396 375 Indy Pace Car convertible, built especially for Pete Estes, the president of General Motors at the time. Or this Yenko supercar. Or this one, built at Dana Chevrolet with the 427 435 horse L88 engine. Or this 69 Camaro by Nicky Chevrolet.
A lot of it was based on my dad. He used to bring me around with a lot of his friends. I used to see muscle cars from 69 to 70 Chevelles to second generation Camaros again. I remember when a good friend of his had bought one, brown white striped car, and I just fell in love immediately with the car.
It's very dangerous ground to say that one muscle car was the greatest of all time. But if you were going to attempt that, you would have to consider the 69 Camaro, which had the great SS396 options, the aluminum head L89, you had the Copos, you had the Yenkos, plus you had an amazing production run that lasted into the 70 model year.
To really tell the whole story of the first generation Camaro, it'd take a lot longer than a half hour. The Super Sport 350s and 396s, and even the Copo 427s, are just a couple chapters in what could be a pretty long book. Camaro lovers will undoubtedly note that absent from this story has been a magnificent car, the Z28. And Z28 lovers will also tell you that it'll take more than a half hour to tell the story of that car too. But we'll try in another issue of the American Muscle Car. We hope you'll be with us for that show and for all the stories of all the greatest cars ever made, the American Muscle Cars. Thanks for watching, and please remember, don't crush them, restore them. In 1964, the Mustang was the car everyone wanted. So how do you make it even better? You turn it into a Shelby. This is the Ford Mustang, the world's most popular car. Does that statement sound a little outrageous? Well, consider this. The Mustang is the only car in history that ever sold 500,000 cars in its first 6 months and over 1 million cars in its first 2 years. When the Mustang hit the market, it was more than just a car. It was an event. In fact, it was the event that changed the automobile industry.
The Mustang was really an original thought. It was not an answer to the imports. It was its own unique idea. It was aimed, I guess, primarily at the young baby boomers that were coming up into car buying age.
Mustang.
The Mustang was a perfect blend of Ford's marketing skill and engineering excellence. The first generation Mustangs were sporty-looking runabouts, which didn't set any performance records. But in the years that followed, Ford managed to develop the car and sell it to millions of people as a sports car, a muscle car, and a luxury car. Because the Mustang was such an immediate hit, it was the perfect platform for America's most memorable and sought-after specialty cars, the Shelby GT350 and the GT500. The Mustang was one of 2 key elements in Ford's plan to replace the Corvette as America's sports car. The other key element was their partnership with an American racing legend, Carroll Shelby. The Mustangs that carried the Shelby name were truly amazing cars. The Shelby Mustangs were symbols of Detroit's ability during the muscle years to build cars that were a cut above the ordinary. Today, everywhere Shelby Mustangs go, they stop traffic and turn heads. People who restore these cars know they've brought something very special back to life. This Mustang magic is what led Charles and Liz Lambert to become a 2 Mustang family.
The blue car catches people's attention a little bit, and you can see them looking. But when I come behind Liz in the Shelby, you can just see the jaw fall down. That's, you know, the awesome part, to catch them when this comes behind the blue one.
The Shelby Mustang is a fascinating chapter in what is already the best success story in muscle car history. Stay with us as Ford goes sports car racing on the American muscle car. Wherever they've competed, Fords have always been at the head of the pack.
One fact cannot be challenged. Nobody outperforms Ford.
Ford has always competed in motor racing for one reason: to be #1 in sales against arch rival Chevrolet. Whatever Chevy did, Ford had to do it better. But there was one kind of racing where Ford didn't have a car that was competitive: sports car racing. The Chevrolet Corvette had established itself in the late 50s as America's sports car and as a world-class road racer. Ford had nothing to put on the line against it. The Ford Thunderbird, which began life in 1955 as a sports car, had outsold the Corvette 13-1. But it had grown from a 2-seat roadster into a personal luxury car and no longer bore any resemblance to a sports car. So in 1964, Ford reached the young generation with their introduction of the Mustang. This was the car that would give them the lead over Chevrolet and become the sports car they had been looking for.
When Mustang hit on April 17, 1964, it was an immediate success. It was debuted at the World's Fair in New York, and people were already lining up to get the cars.
The mid-year introduction of the Mustang was timed perfectly. If Ford had brought it out in September with all the other new models, it might have gotten lost in the clutter. But it debuted in April, all by itself, sharing the spotlight with none of the other 1964 models, and far in advance of the 1965 cars. It was offered only in a coupe or a convertible, and its price tag was attractive, just $23.68. With its long hood, short deck styling, and sports car interior, the youth market responded in numbers the automobile industry had never seen.
Today, as far as cars go, the production figures run between 300 and 350,000 usually of a number one selling car. But in 1965 and 1966, they built 1,159,000 Mustangs. It was still today the most important car introduction ever made.
The Mustang was not built as a performance car, but rather it was aimed at the vast, untapped market of young people who wanted all the thrills of a sports car, combined with the luxury and reliability of a good old American car. In 1965, Ford started upgrading the car's performance. They now offered the car in a fastback called the 2+2, and it came with more engine options, including the high-performance 289 V8, which made the Mustang run as good as it looked.
Just a couple months into production, Ford offered its K-Code engine, which was a solid lifter 289, 4-barrel carburetor. And it wasn't a roll your eyeballs in the back of your head kind of torque monster, but it was a very strong performance engine, more like a American version of a sports car.
With the outstanding success of the Mustang, Ford was really out front and pulling away. But that old desire to go head-to-head with the Corvette still lingered inside Ford Motor Company. Stay with us as Ford goes sports car racing on the American muscle car. Ford had always believed that racing improved the breed. In '64 and '65, they were improving their cars every week. Ford slugged it out with Dodge and Plymouth every week from Darlington to Martinsville, banging fenders, thrilling millions, and selling lots of full-size Galaxies. Ford also wanted dominance at the drag strip. Their '64 Fairlane Thunderbolt was a hand-built car that weighed just about 2,800 pounds. Powered by the big 427, the Thunderbolt had the acceleration curve of a rocket sled.
Crutchfield grabs the win with an elapsed time of 11.76.
The culmination of Ford's American racing efforts was its win at the Indianapolis 500 in 1964 with their 289 V8 powering Jimmy Clark's Lotus. After conquering practically every kind of racing in America, Ford set its sights on the big prize, international sports car racing. The goal, to win the 24 Hours of Le Mans. So Ford had designed a special car called the Ford GT, and they called upon a California road racer to help them build it.
My name's Carroll Shelby, and performance is my business.
Carroll Shelby is just the American icon of racing. He is it. He's our Enzo Ferrari. I mean, that's Carroll Shelby. And Carroll Shelby started out as a racer. Consequently, his relationship with Ford grew, and that's when they started bringing the little cars in from England and stuffing 260 engines in them, the Cobras. Then they put 289s going to 427s. It was a relationship with Ford engines. Then they started to do the Mustangs.
Carroll Shelby's history is just, speaks on its own. I mean, he started in the 50s, late 50s racing. The biggest one was Le Mans. Ford went over to Italy to buy Ferrari. They actually wanted to buy them. And Ferrari turned around and said, well, we want to keep the racing side of it. Ford got mad, came back to America and said, we're just going to beat them. Just whatever it costs, let's build a car and win Le Mans. Let's show Ferrari what we can do.
But the Corvette was still a thorn in Ford's side. Sure, Ford had won Le Mans in Indianapolis with special one-off race cars. But the Corvette was a real sports car that you could buy at your local Chevy dealer. So where was Ford's over-the-counter sports car? Right here, lurking beneath the skin of the sporty little Mustang. So once again, Ford turned to Carroll Shelby to make this little runabout into an all-American race car. All it needed was a little modification to its performance and its image. So the first thing they did was give it a racy name and called it GT350. Most of Shelby's modifications were done to the engine and suspension. The high-winding 289 with its bore of 4 inches and stroke of 2.87 inches already cranked out 271 horsepower. But when Shelby added a bigger 715 CFM Holley carburetor on an aluminum intake manifold and tubular exhaust headers, this boosted its output to 306 horsepower. All Shelby Mustangs were made from the fastback 2+2 body. Just 562 Shelbys were built in 1965, enough to let it race against the Corvette in the popular racing series sponsored by the Sports Car Club of America. By 1966, the Shelby GT350 had made a name for itself. It had already reclaimed some road racing success from Corvette, and it was now the show horse in Ford's stable. The Shelby GT350 was one of the most racy-looking cars in America. It had a fiberglass hood with a functional scoop and rear brake cooling scoops. The Mustang's roof vents were replaced by clear plexiglass, a distinctive Shelby touch. The Shelby Mustangs all sported side stripes with GT350 lettering. These stripes were immediately copied by Ford on many of its other performance models. The driver's compartment of the '66 Shelby was very civilized. There were vinyl bucket seats, and their seat belts were genuine competition-type units. Shelby's also sported a 5-gauge instrument panel, a wood-trimmed steering wheel, and a tachometer in a dash-mounted pod. Softer springs and shocks and a conventional exhaust system served notice that the GT350 Mustang was no longer an all-out turnkey racing package. However, all the go-fast goodies were still available from Ford's parts department if you wanted to make your own SCCA production racer. The Shelby Mustang was so famous by now that Hertz commissioned Ford to make a version just for them, with a special black and gold paint scheme. This Hertz GT350 was distinguished by Hertz center caps in the rally wheels, and the letters GT350H on its sides. Hertz customers were delighted to discover that for $17 a day and 17 cents a mile, they could pretend to be A.J. Foyt until the rental period expired.
The Hertz cars, they made 1,000 of them. Only 85 of them were 4-speed, and the rest of them, 915, were automatics. Everyone tells all their famous tales about renting a car from Hertz and how much fun they had. They had so much fun that Hertz abandoned the program in 1 year.
When the Mustang's body style changed in 1967, Carroll Shelby's little GT changed along with it, and it also sported a new engine. Back in a minute as the Mustang becomes a genuine muscle car. The Mustang was growing out of its image as a cute little car for the sporty crowd and into its new image as a rip-roaring street machine. Chevrolet's introduction of the Camaro with the 396 engine upped the performance ante for the pony car, and Ford responded with new engine options for 1967.
Up through '66, the engine compartment could only accept the small block 289. In '67, there was a major redesign, and the engineers reworked the motor compartment to accept the Ford big block. The top engine at that time was a 390.
The 390 engine had another attribute. It was the same size as the Police Interceptor 428. This fact was immediately apparent to Shelby's engineers. Shelby was already intimately familiar with this series of Ford motors, having used the similar-sized 427 in the Daytona Cobras and the Le Mans cars. When Ford squeezed it into the Mustang, it opened a floodgate of performance for the Shelby Mustang.
The engine's a 428 Police Interceptor rated at 355 horsepower. Truly, that was rating for insurance reasons and to keep the horsepower down at that time. I believe it's pushing about 400, 410 would be more realistic.
2 Holley 600 CFM 4-barrel carburetors on an aluminum intake manifold, cast iron factory headers, and a 12.5-to-1 compression ratio completed this engine, which was in reality a slightly detuned racing motor.
Just a little bit of torque in this.
This engine in the all-new 67 Mustang deserved a new name, so Shelby christened it the GT500. There was no mistaking it for any other car on the street. The GT500 for 67 sported some new fiberglass vents and a pair of large driving lights in the middle of the grille. At the rear, there was an all-new spoiler and new taillights. One of America's foremost authorities on the value of collector cars, particularly Mustangs, is Tom Frazier.
The car is, to me, the favorite of the American muscle cars. Wood steering wheel on the car, massive power. They underrated them at 355 horsepower, and I just personally think that the 67 GT500 is a fabulous car.
If the 67 Mustangs were memorable, then the 68s were definitive. The emergence of the 428 Cobra jet engine was big news on the street, and even bigger news on the drag strip.
Mustang really came into its own in the spring of '68 with the introduction of the 428 Cobra jet. The engine was developed by a Ford dealer in Rhode Island, Tasca Ford. And this guy was very in tune with what was going on with the young guys on the street.
1968 marked another turning point for the Shelby Mustang as Ford and Carroll Shelby parted company. By 1969, the Shelby's sports racer image was just about gone. It was now more luxurious and refined, but it still had Ford horsepower. This combination would make it the best-selling Shelby of all time. Plush bucket seats, a lavish dash, and more chrome and wood trim adorned an interior that now rivaled Thunderbird for high style. The Shelby GTs took the all-new Mustang body style for 1969 one level higher with its scoops, air dams, spoilers, and of course, the all-important graphics and Cobra badges. The front fenders, hood, and valance panel were all fiberglass, and the hood incorporated new air ducts inspired by America's space program. Ford still offered 2 Shelbys for 1969, the GT500 with the 428 Cobra jet engine, and the GT350 with an all-new 351 V8 built in Windsor, Ontario, and called the Windsor engine.
The 351 engine in the GT350 actually is one of the best street cars that you can have. A beautiful shape that a lot of people love, and easy to drive with massive power.
The Shelby cars had been the jewel of Ford's lineup ever since 1965. But in 1969, the Shelby faced its first real challenge to its image, and the challenge came from another Mustang. In a bit of irony, the racing body that helped create the Shelby Mustang back in 1965 now made it obsolete. The new racing series for pony cars was called the Trans Am, and Ford had built the Boss 302 Mustang expressly to dominate the Chevy Camaro Z28 in this series. Ford had finally built the car that would give them the sports car panache they had always wanted, and without Carroll Shelby. Like most of the 60s muscle cars, Mustangs carved their own niche in the automotive landscape. Theirs just happened to be the largest one. The original pony car had many imitators, but when Shelby put his stamp on the Mustang, it had no equal.
The Mustang has had to evolve and change and adapt with the times and the market pressures at work, but it's always stood for a sporty car that's affordably priced and delivers a lot of driving excitement.
Many great muscle cars have come and gone, but it makes sense that the most popular car of all time would still endure, with the same magnetic attraction to car lovers.
I dreamed about getting a Shelby, and it was one of those that you don't think you're going to obtain, and we looked for 2 years to find one that I could actually work on and save some money.
Save some money?
So
that's an oxymoron when one's talking about a Shelby, saving money.
But after 2 years, we did find this one, and it was something I could work on and put back together. And I'm just very happy that I was able to do that.
Unlike many of the great muscle cars, the Mustang is still alive today. And just like in the 60s and 70s, it's one of the most powerful and desirable muscle cars in the world. Its heritage of performance and styling attracts today's young people and still appeals to those who loved the Mustang 30 years ago.
Fortunately now we're in a situation where performance is starting to come back into vogue a little bit. However, it's going to take a while. And we, as Americans, tend to romanticize things that's happened in the past anyway. So as we look back on the muscle car era and enjoy it, we of course remember the good things, tend to not remember the bad things.
As for the Shelbys, they were the most special version of a car which itself was an automotive landmark. Collectors will tell you that the reason they wanted one of these cars was because they were different, and because of the name Shelby.
They name their children, their daughters, their dogs, their cats, their daughters are called Shelby. You know, even people who don't really realize what these cars are, what they're worth, what we do with them, I think people are still very aware in this country and the world over that Carroll Shelby does exist and what he has done.
This is what happens when you take the world's most popular car and give it the name of a legend. Thanks for watching, and remember, don't crush them, restore them.